Okay, now we're going to do the 6 dots on the bottom of the dice. Again, we're using the bottom of the dice because it's opposite the number 1. 1 and 6 add up to 7. So go over here, find your orbit tool, click and drag round till you can begin to see the bottom. Create 2D sketch, and we've created our 2D surface to draw on. Now this time we are going to use another complicated method, but it's one that you should learn to use because it will be very, very handy in time to come. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw one dot and I'm going to locate it in exactly the right place. And then I'm going to use another tool to draw the other 5 dots that we need. So first thing I'll do, select the circle tool, draw it roughly where we want. We want it to be 3 millimeters, so I'll just hit 3 now and hit return. So we now know we've got a 3 millimeter diameter circle. And we also know we want it to be 4 millimeters from the center to the edge and from the center to that edge. I'll use my dimension tool to do that. Click, click, 4, click, click, 4. Click the tick. Right, we've now located one circle. Now to draw another 5 circles in the right place, I'm going to use this tool here. It's sometimes called an array tool, and in this particular program it's called a rectangular pattern. As I say, sometimes called a rectangular array. So I'm going to click on that tool, and you'll see that we've got our rectangular pattern dialog box. The first thing it's asking me to do is identify the geometry. Now that's saying, well, what is it you want to copy? So I click on the dot and select that. And then I select the direction that I want to copy that in. So I click on direction 1, and I want it to be going up and down. So I select this vertical line. And you can see it's copied a dot, but it's put it up the way instead of down the way. So the first thing I'm going to do is reverse that direction, or flip. So I do that, and you can see now we've got 2 copies. They're 10 millimeters apart, and that's looking okay. But if we want to make this a 6-sided dice, we need 6 dots here. We've got 1, 2 dots, so we need 2 rows or 2 columns of 3 dots. So instead of 2 dots, I'm going to tell it we want 3. And you now see we've got 1, 2, 3 dots, but they're far too far apart. So I'm going to say I want the centres 5 millimeters apart. And you now see you've got 1, 2, 3 dots, and they look okay. So that's us got 3 dots in the first direction, and that looks okay. I'm now going to select direction 2, and we want them to be going along the way, so we'll pick a horizontal line. And what we've done is now we've got 2 columns of 3 dots, and that's giving us our 6 dice, our 6 spots on the dice. So that looks okay to me, so I'm going to say okay. And now we've got our 6 dots drawn on the surface of the dice. So we can now finish the sketch, use the orbit tool again so we can see that a bit more clearly. We're obviously going to use the extrude tool again, click on the cut, make sure it's 1.5 millimeters deep, and then we click on each of the dots and we say OK, and we've now got our 6 dots done. Now we go back home, save our work. Right, so on side 1 we used the tools within Inventor to locate the centre and draw our circle, and then use the dimension tools to change the size of the diameter. On side 2 we used the circle tool to draw the dots, and then we used the dimension tool to locate the centres of the dots and set the diameter. The third thing we did was on the side with 5 dice, we used construction lines to locate the centres of the dots, and we used the keyboard to input the diameter as we were drawing them, and that saved using the dimension tool. And on the side with 6 dice, we used the array tool or the rectangular pattern tool in order to draw one dot and then copy it into the rectangular pattern. When we drew the dot, we located the first one using the dimension tools, and we used keyboard input to make sure it was 3 millimeters diameter. And then we used the rectangular pattern tool to copy that dot into all the right places. Now what I want you to do is choose whatever method you like to put 4 dots on this side and 3 dots on that side. And then we'll go on with the lesson.